thank you for affording us this opportunity to be here, this afternoon, and my own special privilege. And like I call myself a ranking member of the Committee on Judiciary in the Senate, it's my honor and privilege to present the nominees of Mr. President for the position of the CJ of the Federal High Court and the President Industrial Court. And I'm sure my learned friend, the Secretary of the National Judicial Council, will add on to it. Thank you very much.
I am Michael Bamidele, Chairman of this committee, and by the grace of God, a member of the same primary constituency that we all share together, which is the legal profession. And in welcoming all of you to this confirmation hearing, let me say that it will be recalled that the Senate, at its plenary sitting on Tuesday, 29th October 2019, deliberated on Mr. President's request for the confirmation of nominations of Honorable Justice John Tsoho and Honorable Justice Benedict Kanyip for appointment as the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court and the President of the National Industrial Court, respectively. Consequently, the Senate, in its wisdom, referred the request to this committee for further legislative action and mandated the committee to report back with its recommendation within 1 week. That 1 week ending by 12 midnight tomorrow. And of course, since we don't sit till 12 midnight, it means by tomorrow morning a report will have to be laid. Let me once again specially welcome you to this first stage of the confirmation process, and to equally inform you that the Senate, under the leadership of His Excellency Senator Dr. Ahmad Ibrahim Lawan, the President of the Senate, is deeply concerned with harmony among the three arms of government and inclusiveness in the activities of the Senate and indeed the National Assembly. He views the other arms of government as partners in progress to deliver on their promises in order to make lives meaningful for Nigerians. And one of the ways to accomplish this task is to give the required attention, messages from Mr. President deserve, as well as other requests from the Judiciary in line with our legislative agenda. First and foremost, I wish to use this medium to appreciate the drive of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for his support for the judiciary, especially in the areas of funding and the provision of enabling environment to function. The judiciary, as an arm of government under the current leadership, has recorded tremendous successes in the performance of its constitutional roles because of the improvement in funding gaps in the last couple of years. It is our further appeal that this trend should be sustained for the judiciary to take its pride of place in the discharge of its functions. However, more interventions are still needed to ensure judicial independence by way of additional funding to courts and judicial bodies, to enable them meet up with the expectations of justice delivery to Nigerians. On this note, I would like to specially commend His Excellency for his prompt response in forwarding the names of the nominees to the National Assembly for confirmation in order to fill the vacant positions in the offices of the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court and the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria. This shows the extent of Mr. President's commitment and the high regard for the judiciary and indeed the affairs of the state. We also look forward to other vacant positions in the judiciary to be filled in the nearest future. For the purpose of emphasis, Honorable Justice Tsoho was nominated to fill the vacated position of the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court in line with Section 250, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. While Honorable Justice Kanyip was nominated to fill the vacant position of the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court in line with Section 254, sub B1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. These appointments were made following the retirement of the erstwhile Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court and the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court after attaining the mandatory retirement age of 65 years in line with Section 291, sub 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. It is as a result of this that their lordships have been invited to appear before the committee for this confirmation hearing in exercise of its jurisdiction, in exercise of its quasi-judicial powers, in line with the constitutional provision that requires that these nominations are subject to confirmation by the Senate. This is also in line with the time-honored principles of checks and balances, especially to reduce mistakes and balance the authorities of the separate branches. I wish to reiterate on behalf of my colleagues that expectations on the judiciary are quite high. And my Lord, you properly represent the institution of the judiciary before us today. Nigerians do not expect anything less than what is required of high judicial officers of your caliber. If eventually your nominations are confirmed by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you will be required to live up to the expectations of Nigerians. The essence of this hearing, therefore, is to screen the nominees and report back to the Senate the outcome of the screening exercise within the given time frame for the confirmation of your appointments. By so doing, the Senate would have been seen to fulfill its constitutional mandate in line with Section 250, sub 1 and 254, sub B1 of our Constitution. Having said that, I wish to state that the screening shall be done in the order of the ranking of the courts in the Constitution. That means we shall first screen the nominee for the office of the Honorable Chief Judge, Federal High Court, before the nominee for the office of the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court. Accordingly, before we start the nomination process, may I humbly request that Honorable Justice B.B. Kanyip, the acting President of the National Industrial Court, be allowed to leave the hall at this point in time while we screen Honorable Justice J.T. Tsoho, acting Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. I thank you, and may God bless you all. And etc. And just in summary, speak to your CV without having to go into all the debate. You know, for the purpose of Nigerians getting to know who is appearing before us. We know you. We know you as Nigerians. And for the first time, we are going to be dealing with you as head of court, as a parliament. It will be good. But you have done well submitting copies of your CV and other documents, and we got them early enough, so we have gone through. We are familiar with that. But we would like you to speak to this for Nigerians to hear you.
Attaining such a position is not an easy task. I also congratulate members of this distinguished committee, which is made up exclusively of lawyers, a constituency which is common to us, a legal profession. And may I also especially congratulate the Honorable Chairman, who, to my knowledge, I am John Tsoho. Well, like you said, my CV is already before you, so I only highlight some information therein contained. I was born specifically on 24th June 1959 at a place known as Batuku, then in the Tiv Native Authority. Of course, we didn't have the state structure in Nigeria then, of northern Nigeria. That place now falls within Benue State, under the Benue Northeast Senatorial District, whose member is on this committee, and I feel happy about that. Though I'm not taking anything for granted because yeah, so I started primary school in 1967. I attended what was then known as the Roman Catholic Mission Primary School at Chengi Batuku. In 1972, I proceeded to the Mount St. Michael Secondary School, Aliede, which is a famous school in its own right, having produced the likes of the Cardinal Onayekon and other famous personalities in Nigeria. After that, I proceeded to the Murtala College of Arts and Science in Makurdi. That was in 1977, and I passed out in 1978. I then gained admission at the University of Lagos, Akoka, where I got the Bachelor of Laws degree, and then proceeded to the Nigerian Law School, where I was called to the bar in 1985. In 1986, well, I went, after call to the bar, I proceeded on the compulsory 1-year service, which I did in Rivers State, and then after the service, I proceeded to Benue State, where I took employment as an inspector of area courts. Well, that may sound curious because, as at that time, upon being called to the bar, one was eligible to be made a magistrate. But the head of court then thought, in his wisdom, he should experiment with us because he was embarking on some reform in order to better the laws of the Benue State Judiciary then. And having made us inspectors of area courts, well, he said he was trying to improve on a system so that young men who had a future should play a role. And by that, he gradually evolved a system where you had qualified lawyers manning the area court bench, and thus raised the trade in that regard in the then northern states. Well, so I didn't stay long on that post because he assured us that even though he was experimenting with good performance, the sky could be our limit. So, in keeping with his promise, 2 years after that, I was made a magistrate in 1988. So I rose through the ranks to become a chief magistrate, grade 1. I was then appointed director litigation, which in some other jurisdictions is known as deputy chief registrar. And eventually I was on that post for 1 year in 1986. Sorry, not 86, 96. Then in 1997, I was appointed chief registrar of the Benue State High Court. I also lasted there for 1 year, and I was appointed a judge of the Federal High Court in 1998. So since 1998, I have served as a judge of the Federal High Court in various jurisdictions or divisions, some of which include Ilorin, Abakaliki, Umuahia, Ibadan, Lagos, and now Abuja. So I was then, so I've served roughly for a period of 21 years on the Federal High Court bench, and specifically on 26th July 2019, that is this year, I was made the acting Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, and now I'm going through the process of confirmation. So in a nutshell, that's the story about me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, to please excuse us. I've been excusing us, don't go away because we need to report back to you. We just need to hold a quick executive session. I'm sure once that is done, we'll come back in. Thank you. There are
from Kaduna State, Kaura local government, to be very exact. I was born on the 29th day of September 1963. I'm the second in the family of 8. I did my primary education at St. Peter's Lava School in Kafancha, a missionary school. I completed in 1975 and went to St. John Vianney Seminary. Permit me, Mr. Chairman, in acknowledging that I'm appearing before you, congratulate you first on your appointment as chairman of this committee, as well as a member of the body of benches. To also congratulate the distinguished members of this committee in terms of their membership of the committee. I completed my secondary education in 1980 and proceeded to then Katsina College of Art, Science and Technology, Zaria, where I did IJMB, qualifying exams for admission into the university. It's a program of 2 years. I completed and was admitted to do law at Bamidele University, Zaria. I did this between 82 and 85. Thereafter, I went to law school for 1 year. Got called to the bar in 1986 and then served in Benin for the compulsory National Youth Service Corps. I completed service in 87 and went back to Bamidele University as a teacher. I was there for 5 years till 1992 when I left for National Commission for Colleges of Education as legal advisor in the rank of principal legal officer. I was there for 2.5 years when I was invited to join the research faculty of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. So I was there between 1995 and 2000. First as senior research fellow, was promoted to associate research professor of law. In 2000, the then President Olusegun Obasanjo, appointed me as a member of the National Industrial Court. Then the membership was 5. Only the President could, and by law, must be a lawyer. Other 4 of us need not be lawyers, but I was one of 2 lawyers that were appointed as members then. So I was in the National Industrial Court from 2000, and by 2004, my initial appointment for 4 years was renewed for another 4 years. But while that was in 2006, the National Assembly promulgated the National Industrial Code Act 2006. and by Section 2 of that Act, all of us who were already there as members were by law deemed to be judges. So strictly speaking, I became a judge of the National Industrial Court in 2006. While in the court, I have held the administrative position of the presiding judge of the Lagos Division of the court. I held that position up to the point of 1st October this year, when upon the retirement of my predecessor, I was appointed as the acting president of the court. The only thing that is missing in my current CV is that in virtue of being acting president of the court, I'm also a member, statutory member of some judicial bodies, National Judicial Council, the Federal Judicial Service Commission, and in virtue of that, I also serve in a number of subcommittees. I think that's the bit that is not reflected in the CV. So I have varied experience in terms of generally commercial area of law, where I have undertaken researches, written articles, and I have principally 2 titles really. I'm co-author of a book, Elements of Commercial Law, and sole author of a book on consumer protection in Nigeria. Because of my involvement in labor issues, I've had a cause to be nominated by the government to serve on a technical committee on the review of labor laws in Nigeria. In 1999, when the then President Clinton visited Nigeria with counterpart funding from the US to be administered by the ILO, a project was created called the Declaration Project. The whole idea was to bring our laws in tune with the democratic ethos of that time. If you cast your minds back, the majority of our labor laws were products of military rule. So there was a necessity to democratize the law, so to speak. So this technical committee was set up, 6 of us, 2 representing government, 2 representing labor, and 2 representing employers. And we worked for a number of years and were able to reduce these laws to 4. Collective Labor Relations Bill, Labor Standards Bill, Labor Institutions Bill, and then Occupational Health and Safety. The product of our work, incidentally, is still in the National Assembly in terms of the outcome. So I was instrumental to that, and because of that work, I was at one time also asked by ECOWAS to do a study on the harmonization of labor laws and the development of the labor policy for ECOWAS. I did that and I submitted, and the Conference of Heads of State adopted it, and there is a protocol actually on it. Right now they are working on harmonizing employment laws. I was actually approached to do it, but in virtue of my current status as a judge, the rules do not allow me to take such a job again. So I had to turn it down. Distinguished Chairman, in a nutshell, this is a brief summary of my life and what I represent.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the final segment of the conversation hearing. And I want to say that during the screening exercise, our committee interviewed Honorable Justice Tsoho and Honorable Justice Benedict Kanyip and received explanation regarding their life, their work experience, their exposure, their qualifications, competence, and suitability to assume the position functions of Honorable Chief Judge, Federal High Court, and Honorable President, National Judicial Court. We report that they answered questions on topical, legal, and contemporary issues. I therefore would like to put a question to my distinguished colleagues. Is that the true reflection of what transpired during the screening exercise?
Yes.
So before I put the final question, my lords, let me say on behalf of our committee again that we consider this confirmation hearing on behalf of the 9th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to be a very unique and very historic development. And it's really a pleasure to have spent time with you. As we round up this confirmation hearing, and as we also proceed to lay our reports and recommendations before the Senate, it is important that we once again emphasize on the need for collaboration on what has become a collective vision. The vision of our committee, the vision of the 9th Senate, and no doubt the vision of Nigerians who are convinced that no democracy can grow or can survive with a compromised judiciary. That we drive the vision to ensure that there is urgent and unusual attention that is paid to the plight of the Nigerian judiciary. For so long, as the history dominated political space, that our judiciary is corrupt. As far as we are concerned, it is time for Nigeria to change the narrative. It is time for Nigeria to show that we are serious and we understand the full and true meaning of the independence of the judiciary. A cardinal aspect of it is financial independence. We are concerned as a committee and as a Senate that we must not allow the rest of the international community to leave us behind. Something urgently needs to be done about the plight of the Nigerian judiciary. No Nigerian would not be surprised to hear that when a judge has to go out of station, all you get is 25,000 naira to stay in a hotel. And you wonder which hotel. Essentially, my lords, we are concerned about the welfare of our justices, our judges, and the judicial officers. Under the present set of circumstances, if we appoint saints from heaven, assuming we are able to do so, to serve on our bench as justices and judges, it is only the strength of character of the individual judge or justice that can prevent him from being corrupt. No one will endorse or support corruption. And as far as we are concerned, it's also not a moral issue. It's a sociological issue, and it needs to be addressed materially through very special and extra budgetary provision. We are convinced that there is the need to make available to our judiciary a special intervention fund. And I believe this will be an issue for both the legislative and the executive arms of government to address most speedily beyond the current budgetary provision. In saying this also, on behalf of this committee and the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we want to commend Mr. President, His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, for the continued increase in the funding of the judiciary since he became president. And in commending Mr. President for us to say, as elected representatives of the people, that it is not yet rule. The law still needs to be done. And for us to be able to catch up, there is a need for special intervention fund, the details of which we believe both the leadership of the legislature will have to work out with the executive arm of government. And after the special intervention fund, we can then agree on how there can be consistent increase on an annual basis in the annual budget of the nation as far as the judiciary is concerned. But having said this, let me also call on the lordships to do all your best in the event that the Senate, after laying our report and recommendation, chooses to confirm your lordship as Chief Judge of the Federal High Court and as President of the National Industrial Court respectively. Do your best to ensure that you provide the kind of leadership and also join and spearhead the subtle struggle for the improvement of the welfare of our judicial officers, and do all you can to also ensure that the reforms that we need in the judicial sector are driven home. Because without these reforms, all these efforts will continue to be a highway to nowhere. We have no doubt that we feel as passionate about these issues as we do. And we believe that the recommendation by Mr. President also must have been informed by your antecedents and the kind of reputation that precedes you. It is part of our own understanding that the mood, both in the executive and legislative arm of the government as well as in the judicial arm, will allow the Supreme Court appoint the required number of justices as provided for in our Constitution, which is 21 altogether, with a view to helping the Supreme Court to be able to also take care of many of the cases that have been pending. Same for appointment of additional justices of the Court of Appeal. But we know all of these have financial implications. And these are not implications, these are not issues that can be addressed within the envelope given to the judiciary. And of course, the rest assured that we will do all we can to ensure that the legislative arm of government works with the executive arm of government, not for our justices and judges, it's nothing personal to them, but for our democracy to survive, because there's no alternative to what we are doing. The only alternative, is anarchy, and no one prays for that. So we'll do what we have to do on our part, and I also just want to assure you on behalf of all our colleagues that Nigerians have expectations from our justices and judges, expectations that are urgent, extremely urgent, and that we believe are in the overriding best interests. Again, I want to thank all the lordships who have made our time to accompany the two nominees. And having said all of this, I now finally would question, would the committee recommend the Senate to confirm the nominations of Honorable Justice Tsoho John Tsoho.
Yes.
Yes. Those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Against say nay. I also put a question. Will the committee recommend to the Senate the confirmation of the nomination of Honorable Justice Benedict Kanyip for appointment as Honorable President of the National Industrial Court? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those in favor say nay. Those against say nay. Is anyone there? Those in favor say it is therefore my ruling that the committee is going ahead to recommend both nominees to the Senate for confirmation. And again, I want to thank you, distinguished colleagues, for your time, and to thank all my lords for your time, and to thank you also, Special Advisor to Mr. President on National Assembly matters, as well as all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen present, gentlemen of the press, received judgment over judgments, judges and justices. We also hope that we do justice to this, and thank you for your time and tomorrow. And having said that, I want to say that I would need a motion for adjournment. Yes. Chairman, I move motion that the committee be adjourned as Senator